Welcome to the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen, covering the week that was in professional wrestling.
And welcome once again to another edition of the Juice Box. I am Juice Springsteen. Before we dive into the Payback predictions this Saturday in Pittsburgh, just like to introduce what was going on with that particular episode. First of all, at JuicySteen on Twitter, you can find me. JuicySteen.podbean.com, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. If you can go to iTunes and rate and review this show 5 stars or 5 straws, that would be fantastic. To get that feedback from you out there, the listener. But this week, I felt it was very special. Payback, a PLE coming to Pittsburgh. As I am here in Pittsburgh, normally I do the prediction show with Josh Isenberg, another member of the Chair Shot Reality family, a video podcast we were a part of. He was one of the first guys on the show. He kind of started the whole damn thing back in the day, and I hopped on for a 3-year run. But in addition, Justin LaBar, who was the mainstay of that show. I became friends with him and Josh pretty much around the same time back in 2015. And we haven't really talked live on a show like this since March of 2022 before Mania that year. So without further ado, we got Justin LaBar on Twitter at Justin LaBar, at Josh Isenberg 4 on Twitter, and myself at JuicySteen on Twitter, all discussing the predictions for Payback in Pittsburgh. I hope you guys enjoy this little, tiny, mini Chair Shot Reality reunion, all happening right here on the Juice Box. Had a great time with these guys, and I hope you guys enjoyed this show as much as I did. So without further ado, here are the Payback predictions with the guys from Chair Shot Reality.
All right, it's Payback weekend, Pittsburgh, PLE. Cannot wait for this Saturday night. It's going to be a crazy, crazy show, potentially. 6 matches, and I've got 2 guys to discuss it with me. But they're not just any guys. They are Josh Isenberg, Justin LaBar, 3/4 or however many other guys and girls we had on Chair Shot Reality, of Chair Shot Reality here in the Juice Box. I cannot believe I wrangled Josh Isenberg and LaBar, of all people, who, you know, is normally sparring with everybody on Fridays on Busted Open Radio. But now, on this Friday, he will not only be doing that, I don't know if he's scheduled, but he will be on my show, The Juice Box. Welcome, guys. I cannot believe we're finally here. It's been since March of 2022, where we did the CSR reunion show before Mania. Welcome to The Juice Box.
My check hasn't cleared yet, Juice, so you're on borrowed time, my friend.
It must have been lost in the mail.
You're getting paid for this?
Oh, you're not?
I will say I did ask LaBar. It was in a haze of liquid courage where I said, "What's your going podcast rate?" But he never responded, so I hope that he just ignored it because this is on the house.
He's throwing you a bone.
No, I thought it did.
That's right.
I thought it did respond. I said for you, it is on the house.
Oh, well, no, I never got that. You must have lost my number, too.
No, I think your liquid courage turned to liquid confusion, probably.
Absolutely. Well, we could check the chat logs. But it's great for you guys to be here. Last time we talked, Twitter was Twitter, not X, whatever the hell the kids call it these days. You can follow me at JuicySteen on Twitter, X, Josh Isenberg 4, and at Justin LaBar. Fellas, we got Payback. Love PLEs in Pittsburgh. It's always a great time. But, of course, last week I recorded the show, and I talked about Terry Funk passing and what a legacy he left on the business. And, 79 years old. It was really tough to see that news. But almost just a half hour after I stopped recording the show last week, I found out about the incredibly saddening and sudden passing of Bray Wyatt at the age of 36, which shocked me, shocked the wrestling world. Just stunning. We thought, even as close as a week ago, we heard that Bray Wyatt could be potentially coming back and, being involved. Maybe at Payback, maybe at Fastlane, some shows coming up. I know we'll talk about it later with the Cody Grayson Waller segment. I thought maybe Bray could be another Cody opponent for the future, but we'll never really know that. What a sad turn of events this past week has been for wrestling fans. But I would like to just pass the buck to you guys first. Josh, welcome to the Juice Box once again. I love having you on for these prediction shows. Bray Wyatt passing, very sad. I'd like to hear your thoughts on his career and any impact he might have had for you personally or just you as a fan.
Yeah, I think one of the craziest things that I really got hit with was first off seeing the 1987, which is a year before, I was born. So thinking of his family, thinking of his friends, his loved ones at such a young age. And I think one of the things about Bray Wyatt is no matter what he did in WWE, it seemed like he just had this creative freedom where he can make himself and his character the way he wanted it to be. And that's so rare, I think, even now to an extent, but even, over the past, I would say, 11 years or 10 years really that he was, on that main roster in WWE. So seeing that and seeing how creative and how unique his character was just such a breath of fresh air. And the crowd never turned on Bray Wyatt. There's times where fans will get sick of something or, if he didn't put on the best match in the world, it never deteriorated the fans from rooting for a guy like that because of, the creative genius, I can say, that I think he brought to professional wrestling and in sports entertainment. So just all of that together was so unique to see and how he was able to create something completely different than anything else, and the comparisons of The Undertaker were great because it was very similar because it was very different than 95% of what we were seeing in the WWE and even in pro wrestling. So, but even in a personal thing, WrestleMania 30, sitting next to Justin, obviously in the Silverdome, but the Superdome, seeing one of the best WrestleManias of all time, obviously Bray Wyatt was a big part of that. But getting an opportunity for the first time in a handful of months to connect with my brother who was kind of disengaged from pro wrestling and WWE for almost a decade. I remember texting him inside of the Superdome and saying, hey, here's my WWE network password. Here's my login. You should check out this guy. He's unique. You're going to like him. And I'm not kidding you. Like even now, my brother older than I am has 50 to 60 figures, masks, things of Bray Wyatt because he loved him that much as a character. And that brought him back to the world of pro wrestling that we've all loved. So it was just nice that, I was able to reconnect with my brother on a personal connection over something that we both grew up loving. So, man, it's sad, but, I just really feel for his family as well. That's just something that I've had some personal deaths recently that I've have affected my family and friends and things like that, and seeing somebody at an age of 36 years old is just it's jarring, and I just feel for everybody involved. So but a big impact on what I loved about pro wrestling over the past 10 years was Bray Wyatt, and also just that connection that I was able to reestablish almost 10 years ago with my brother.
Very well said, man. It's so creative in a world where everybody complained about and still complains and never ending about the creative, dealings within WWE with Vince at the helm or Triple H at the helm, with everybody, potentially doing this or that. And, this guy's not getting a push. They're not being used correctly. And like all the ups and downs with, most of the roster, even if it never landed with 100% of the fans, like Bray Wyatt's, like any return he had was always met with incredible fanfare, incredible buzz. I've said it before, and I think I'll keep saying it. The Fiend's entrance at SummerSlam 2019, I thought was as close to peak, like Undertaker aura vibes that any other wrestler had really achieved up until that point. It was so jarring in a good way. I didn't know what to expect, and then it was a heavy metal entrance song, and the Fireflies were there, but the new mask, the new look, he had trimmed down a little bit. He looked jacked compared to how he was before. And it was just a new vision. The lamp was ahead with it was a lot more of an extreme character. and stuff like that. I mean, every time he came back, even people panned the Pitch Black match with LA Knight at Royal Rumble, but to me, it was right up his alley. That was the type of stuff that he enjoyed. Whether again, if it landed or didn't land, that's what he was passionate about. Was really having interesting or creative moments. And even if people didn't like certain things that he had done in the ring like that, you cannot deny that it was probably more creative than just about anything else on the show.
Yeah.
So it's good. It's a real loss. I feel so terrible for his family and those around him. I mean, Eric Rowan, of course, and Braun Strowman. Losing Brody and now Bray in 3 years is so terrible and tragic. And I'll pass it to you now, LaBar. You did interview the one guy that helped along with the creative process with the masks with Bray Wyatt as the Fiend became something, and you definitely had some interaction with Brody Lee back in the day as a manager. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on those guys and just on the whole situation.
Yeah, very sad, very, very sobering. I was born in '87, so my 36th birthday is approaching. You feel for his family, the pictures and the tribute, with his wife and his kids. And the guy's name is Jason Baker. He worked for the legendary horror special effects and makeup artist Tom Savini, based here in Pittsburgh. And a lot of the Fiend masks and some of the other stuff that they did. You mentioned the lantern and the original Firefly Funhouse segments, the set and all those were all built and done here in Pittsburgh. So a little bit of history for Pittsburgh in terms of connection to it. And it's sad. It obviously super creative, as you guys touched on. We haven't had a lot in our lifetime. We haven't had a lot of active talents die while they're on the active roster. You go back Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, of course, that had a lot of crazy situations that we would learn about not long after. Brian Pillman, but so you don't often get it. Usually when we're getting the in memory, it's guys and girls that are older, or I'm not going to say you expect it or that but it's just this one hits different when like you said earlier, Juice. There's reports that creative was getting ready, and like you said, I was even thinking, oh, maybe he could pop up at Payback. So when you're actively waiting for somebody to appear back on Raw or SmackDown, and then you find out suddenly that they have passed away, and at the age that he did. As creative as he was, and as much as he's accomplished, he's got a Hall of Fame career already. I mean, you just look at the string of manias of who he worked with. Cena, Taker, Orton, doing a segment with The Rock. I mean, it's just he's already a Hall of Famer, and hopefully they put him in next year. But there still was so much potential that I felt like just didn't get to be reached. And for me, selfishly as a fan, I think back at once he really broke off from the original trio of the Wyatt family, and he's kind of more on his own. I think about fall of 2017, heading towards the TLC pay-per-view. I was there in Minneapolis, and I remember looking forward to it. That it looked like he was going to embody Sister Abigail and is going to fight Finn. And then actually a medical thing came up with him and several others in the roster, and they had to call an audible. But it's like, okay, there's always tomorrow, there's always next month. We can pick back up. Or we think about once he's the Fiend and he's doing all the Firefly Funhouse stuff, and want to see where that's going to go. And then the pandemic hits, and he's part of the mass release. But it's like, okay, again. Maybe he gets brought back and signed later once things get back to normal. Maybe he goes to AEW where his creative visions can be further, let out. It's always tomorrow. And then he makes his awesome return last year at Extreme Rules, tremendous organic build with all the Easter eggs and such leading into it. And he comes back, and then we start, seeing Uncle Howdy and seeing, again, more expansion of his world. And then all of a sudden he's off TV, as they're on the road to Mania. And you think, okay, again, it's always tomorrow. It's always next month. He'll pop back up and we'll get closure. We'll get to finish it, and no closure. And again, that's all selfishly as a fan. Most serious is feeling for his wife and his kids and the rest of his family who've lost him pretty sudden. But yeah, a creative genius gone too soon. The pro wrestling world is full of egos and full of controversy at all times, but the amount of people that have such glowing positive things to say about the man Wyndham, I think that says a lot about who he was.
Absolutely. And you touched on it. As much as I think Bray Wyatt should be in the Hall of Fame, I almost feel like they're going to just end up putting the Wyatt family in the Hall of Fame and just kind of button it up there, because I think there might be some sort of outcry if Brody were to not make it in, because you'd wonder if he would make it in by himself. So I think with both of them, I think you might put them all in. Do you think that's something that's doable, or would they not do that? Would Braun be in there? Like, how do you guys figure about that?
Well, I mean, obviously they put factions in. They put the Horsemen in, they put DX,
Right.
and they put NWO. So it certainly can be done. I think you're right. I mean, I could see people getting offended if they just put Bray in, and people would feel like Brody's being left out, or I guess they would call him Luke Harper. That would be Josh. That would be a first, though, having Braun still, assumingly, would still be active come next spring. I think he's injured right now, but like that would be interesting for him to have a Hall of Fame ring.
Can you imagine that?
Before he's a guy who I thought they missed the lightning in the bottle with, but he still gets a Hall of Fame ring before he's even retired.
Yeah, I mean, he's the Universal Champion, so I guess like you look at his credentials comparative to, I guess, how you judge people in the Hall of Fame. I mean, you don't have to have this amazing resume anymore to be in the Hall of Fame. They kind of throw some randos in there from time to time, but it'd be an interesting idea. And I understand the outcry that could potentially have from not having guys like, Luke Harper involved or anything like that. Like I get that. I don't know. I just think since he was gone from WWE for, the past, 5 years, I don't think, and this sucks, but I don't think it's as important for them to induct the entire family in next year. And especially considering it's in Philadelphia. Bray returned at Extreme Rules in Philadelphia. I was there for that.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
They could do either way. And I think I'd be happy with either way. The general consensus would probably be happy, but you would have that small amount of individuals who would say, like, why isn't the entire Wyatt family in there? Justifiably so. I get that. But yeah, a very unique thought, Juice. I've never really thought like, hey, should you put the entire family in there, and you still have Strowman getting a ring, but still competing if he's obviously being healthy.
Well,
Yeah,
we know the Hall of Fame is,
it's subjective.
Well, and it's there, at least traditionally, it's there to sell tickets, it's there to give viewership. So I guess it becomes what's a sexier marquee, the Wyatt family going in or Bray Wyatt,
Yeah, good point.
And that's where I think it comes in, is that like, yeah, it's a sexier name, but you're getting Bray Wyatt with the Wyatt family. Like his name's already, it's his family. Everybody is the supplemental piece of that. And I do think that you could get a Luke Harper in at some point, in the future. It's just because of this, and there's 2 of the 4 aren't with us. I think it's almost too jarring to not want to jump to the conclusion of let's just put the whole family in. Like I don't think that at this point they would care of the optics of Braun being a Hall of Famer and being like, I don't think they'd even care.
Yeah. You'd hope
so.
Not,
No, I think this is such a jarring thing to happen that they might just be like, hey, we didn't expect it. I mean, no one would expect this, so let's just do what we might think is right.
I also think that if you could put in, because Braun, relatively speaking, was with them for such a short amount of time, you could also just put in Bray, Harper, and Rowan, because that is the one that's the trio that made the impact. And I don't think Braun Strowman would get offended.
Well, he's not finished with you yet. So his career's not done. He can end up going in on his own. So
that's what I mean. I don't think he'd be offended. Because he would know that he has his own induction.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure they would let him know, like, hey, you're gonna be fine. Because you think about the original Wyatt family was just the 3. So
you didn't see Horace Hogan from the NWO get inducted. So why Braun Strowman?
That's right. That's right.
One of the great injustices. Well, if you do the original trio, you could even have Braun do the induction, and then Rowan could do the acceptance speech for them.
Yeah,
absolutely. So we might have just touched on it. That's why the juice box is housing 3 straws in it tonight. All right. So great words from you guys. I just didn't know how else to discuss this. I mean, like I said, I talked about Terry Funk last week, and it was so different. It was uplifting. It was, man, all these great moments he had. He was 79. What a life he lived. And then like an hour after I'm done talking about that, like the world's just crashing down with this younger guy, over half of his age, in the prime of his career. So I'm very thankful that you guys could talk about this with me. But we are also here for Payback. I'm sure, I know Josh is going. I know I will be in attendance. LaBar, are you going to Payback?
I will be at Payback.
All right, that sounds good.
Breaking news.
Right, you heard it here first. Just LaBar.
He didn't even save it for Busted Open. That'll be airing in about an hour from this show.
That's right. Before we get into the predictions, I just want to go over a brief history of pay-per-views, or PLEs, as they're now referred to, in Pittsburgh. And then I'm going to ask you guys, or I'll ask you ahead of the time, and then I'll run them down, what your favorite memory from any of these pay-per-views or PLEs are. Let's just start with SummerSlam 95. We got King of the Ring 98, Unforgiven 2001, No Way Out 2005, Armageddon 2007, Bragging Rights 2009, Royal Rumble 2014, Roadblock End of the Line 2016, Extreme Rules 2018, and now we have Payback this Saturday. So, Josh, I'll ask you first. Out of those, do you have a favorite memory of a Pittsburgh PLE or pay-per-view, whether you were there or you weren't, and you reminisce on it? Give me one.
Yeah, so I'm gonna throw a little curveball. I think Armageddon 07 was a very underrated show, and I had the chance to sit next to a pimple-faced LaBar, who, in 2007 was a young man in college, and I was also a young man in college, and we looked awful. Good thing that we aged like a fine wine. But, that for me, that was seeing Edge win the World Heavyweight Championship, pinning I think he pinned Batista in his triple threat with The Undertaker.
Yep.
So that was always good. They also had Jericho and Randy Orton in that in that pay-per-view. And then you also had, the up-and-coming star, Mr. Kennedy, against HBK. So I really enjoyed that pay-per-view from 07. A lot of great memories. I can remember exactly what I wear because it shows up on my Facebook memories every December. So, I'm wearing my Green Bay Packers stuff and a Mr. Kennedy shirt underneath. But I think that was always a memorable one for me just because you didn't expect much for a December pay-per-view. The Royal Rumble is always good. We had Roadblock, which was a very forgettable pay-per-view. So out of all of those, I think I've been to pretty much all of them. Maybe not SummerSlam 95, but pretty much the rest of them. I'd say Armageddon is a very very memorable one for a young Josh Isenberg in college at downtown Pittsburgh.
I'm thrilled that you guys were there because that was the first pay-per-view I got to go to, and I was a huge Edge head as well. And from my vantage point, I could see. Look at me. Look at us. I saw the edge heads from under the ring. Like my vantage when I saw them, I was like, wait a second. They're trying to pull a, there was no twin magic back then, but I'm like, I know exactly what they're doing. It's unbelievable.
Yep.
And then they pulled it off. And for me, having Edge be my favorite wrestler at the time, and all I wanted was Edge to win the title. And I'm like, there's that. I get, like you said, random December pay-per-view. You got the Royal Rumble. Why the hell would they even change it?
Yeah.
Lo and behold, they do. In a great moment. And I have a friend that I was actually at King of the Ring 98. He was very young, but little does he know that he saw one of the most played moments in the history of professional wrestling. So I'm always jealous of that. LaBar, you've been to quite a few shows in your day, including, jealously, WrestleMania 17, although that wasn't in Pittsburgh. It's the greatest show of all time. Out of the Pittsburgh shows, give me some favorite moments you had.
Well, obviously the King of the Ring, it's memorable for all of us. But I wasn't. I was living in Maryland at the time, so I remember right where I was, who I was with, and watching that show. And so that's always memorable. But I actually have to agree with Josh. The Armageddon 2007, when you say it, that was the first Pittsburgh pay-per-view I went to, and of course I remember going with Josh, and he and I were both into Mr. Kennedy at the time, and he was of course a huge Edge fan. So it was very special for all the reasons he said, and he ran down the card. And then I'll take a step further. For me, that was actually one of the first shows that I ever got to go behind the scenes at a WWE show, courtesy of them. Contact I had knew that I was in Pittsburgh and had touched base, and was like, hey, if you can get up here, and we at the time lived downtown, and so it was just a 15-20 minute walk in the cold. It was the show was at Mellon Arena, the old igloo that was there before they built what's there now for PPG Paints. And he's explaining to me how, while this building's iconic, it has a lot of history, a lot of wrestling history, how it's so outdated compared to the rest of the buildings in the country that they run, that the way they have to run the wiring of all the cameras and everything in production, they go back to the trucks. Like it was so,
they hated it.
Yeah, it was terrible. And, and so you're getting to be there, and I can remember, it's early in the afternoon, and we're in the arena part, and I'm watching them test the pulley rigging system for Kennedy's microphone to come down. And I mean, so it was a great experience. So yeah, because of that, Josh and I there having fun as fans, just watching. That is very memorable for me. Would be the Armageddon 07.
Yeah, that's awesome that you guys, I love that that's the memory you guys decided on, because again, that was the first pay-per-view I got to go to. I was talking to Josh before we really got this thing cooking. And just as a little aside, the guy I'm going with to Payback, his name's Matt. His wedding is later on in September. So I thought this was a perfect gift for that. And he and I became friends through wrestling. But how it happened was I had been out of wrestling whenever WCW folded for 4 years. From '01 to '05, I was just out of it. And then I swear it was a radio spot. And they were like, barbed wire steel cage at No Way Out in Pittsburgh. And I was like, what the hell is this? I can't believe this is happening. And I got intrigued, and I kind of got involved. And I loved Cena, and I was really on board at the time. And then after that, I ended up buying WrestleMania 21 that year, and the rest is really history. For him being like my friend, like the next day, he was in my 6th grade English class. We weren't friends yet, and I bought WrestleMania 21, and I was like, hey, what a great show. And he's like, oh, tell me something that happened. he didn't believe that I watched the show. And I immediately was like, hey, Shelton Benjamin ran up the ladder and he clotheslined Jericho and the Money in the Bank. And he was like, wow, that was great. And he's like, yeah, he agreed. And after that, we just became real close. And I'm going to be the best man at his wedding. We're going to be at Payback. So all this stuff lines up. And I love that you guys have the Armageddon '07 experience. At Bragging Rights '09, that same guy, he was a row ahead of me, and we watched the Orton Cena 60-minute Iron Man match.
Yep.
It's funny though. You get the Iron Man match there. You had the Iron Man match. Didn't they have one at Roadblock with Charlotte and Sasha?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
And then they also had the one with Dolph and Seth at Extreme Rules.
Mm-hmm.
So we
that
have
was a 30-minute one, though, I think, right? Not an hour one.
It was 30 minutes, and
at
every 10-second interval, they would count down so much that they had to turn off the Titan clock. But it's fun. We get the Iron Man matches, and now we get a steel cage match here at Payback, as we'll now delve into the Payback card. Like I said, a barbed wire steel cage. We had the most infamous Hell in a Cell match. Braun, we mentioned earlier, throwing Kevin Owens off a steel cage. Edge cashed in on Undertaker in Pittsburgh after a steel cage match. A lot of steel cage history here in Pittsburgh. So let's just kick it off. I'll start with you, LaBar. First match that we will talk about, Becky Lynch, Trish Stratus, steel cage in the Steel City. This is Trish's first steel cage match, which blows my mind. She's been in the business quite a long time, and I love that she did not come back to WWE for a cup of coffee and a good WrestleMania payday. She is now in a huge steel cage match against Becky Lynch. I'm thrilled to see this. What are your thoughts? Who do you got in this match? And are you excited to see Trish in a steel cage? Is she going to do a moonsault off the top? No.
I don't know about a moonsault, but it is cool to see her in one, because when you think back to when she started in WWE and there was no plans to put her in any steel cage matches. It was TNA all the way, right? Tessa and Albert. So to see her in a cage match, pretty cool.
I love how to clarify what TNA was.
Tessa and Albert.
TNA wrestling?
Yeah, so I mean, it's cool to see her in a cage from that perspective. I mean, I'm going with Becky here. I kind of think it is cool that Trish didn't come back just for a cup of coffee, like you said, but every week when I watch these segments between the two of them and watch matches, it's not for a lack of trying, because Trish had a really good heel promo earlier in the summer. I don't remember where they were, but it's not for a lack of trying, but I still just don't know if most of the fans even want to boo her. And having not been there live, I don't know what percentage of it is actual heat that she's getting. I don't know if it's dubbed in. But I think that's what Zoe Stark's purpose serves. Everybody's fine booing Zoe Stark. She's the lackey that can get beat up. She's the new girl. I just don't know if people believe it. So I don't know what the outcome is here in terms of, like, I think Becky's going to win. I don't know if it's Becky wins and we get if we get kind of the babyface shake hands of respect, but just a baby Trish, and if this in fact is her last match for this current run. But I can't imagine, this is such a blow off when you have the cage, right? It's such a blow off. I can't imagine that this ends any other way other than Becky getting a win. Is what I'd figure.
And I agree with that. I think that Zoe Stark is an important piece that can still go forward in this feud with potentially Becky going forward. So not necessarily needing Trish involved in that. I do agree where you could see no matter what happens. I'm going to say Becky Lynch wins as well. But that Trish could have that little farewell, not for her career or what have you, but Now that Zoe will probably take over, maybe you see a Zoe heel turn on Trish, and then we can forward her and Becky. Josh, Trish in a cage. They said TNA, early TNA had women dancing in cages. This is something similar to that.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, it's got to be Becky Lynch for all the reasons that you both said. So, I guess I'm just interested in, and Justin, you hit the nail right on the head for me. There's always just like something missing. Like, it's not bad promo work. It's not effort. There's just something between the two of Becky and Trish that, you don't want to boo Trish because she was basically the entire, Attitude Era 2000s, after the Attitude Era, really, where she was primarily the leading woman in WWE and really made herself a superstar instead of just a blonde-haired model that was, escorting Tessa and Albert out. So you don't want to boo her, and I think fans still love to see her. I also think, and this is not trying to have a hit on either of them, their chemistry in the ring just isn't fluid. The match on Monday night with Becky and Zoe was great, and I think it's primarily because Zoe Stark is just a naturally athletically gifted person, and Becky Lynch just isn't, and Trish Stratus just isn't. Like, there's just a disparity between the Zoe Starks and the Bianca Belairs and even the Rhea Ripleys compared to, the Becky Lynches and the Trish Stratuses of the world, where they have to rely more on, storytelling in the ring and not the athletic moves between what's supposed to happen next, if that makes sense. So I think for those 2 points, I'm excited to see this feud end. I thought the past couple of weeks have been better, but it's at the point right now where if Becky loses, I don't see a point for her to lose because it doesn't benefit Trish. And Becky picking up a win here, I mean, they got to give credible opponents to Rhea Ripley because Monday Night Raw right now just doesn't have any. No discredit to the women that, Rhea has been facing or potentially Raquel Rodriguez, but she's not ready for a championship match. And I think we can kind of agree on that. Like, the crowd's not invested in her yet, but they need people for Rhea Ripley. And the biggest one that you can give right now on Raw is Becky Lynch.
Yeah, I also don't think I have to remind myself sometimes, like, why are Becky and Trish fighting? Why do they have a problem? Like, I don't know what it is, but it feels like it was forever ago that Trish turned on Becky, and like I don't know if it's because I couldn't stick with it every week. I'm not sure what it is, but like I feel like they've lost any pulse that there was of like why this matters and why there's emotion.
Was it because Lita was involved too for like a quick time, and then that was all gone, and she was actually going and Trish stayed?
Yeah.
And Trish Lita got attacked backstage, and Trish took over in the tag team match, and they lost the titles on Raw.
Right.
With the third or fourth or fifth or sixth or seventh, whatever women's tag team championship combination they had. But yeah, so I agree, Justin. I think it's like, why are they really feuding? Like, they tried to create hatred over something that I think didn't really need to happen. And Trish is just not going to be hated. Similar to when they tried to turn Becky heel, it just didn't click. You can only turn people to a crowd at a given time in their character, and that wasn't the time. As soon as you saw Becky, Trish, and Lita at WrestleMania together, and then a few weeks later you turn it. It just, the timing was way off, I feel.
Yeah. So you mentioned Raquel Rodriguez, and we'll get to that match in a little bit. But I think it's across the board unanimous. Becky Lynch should take this match. I'm just interested to see Trish in a cage. It's cool to see her knock this off her bucket list, or just piece of wrestling history that, she's been in other matches. She's been in WrestleManias, and this would be a fun match, I think. I guess we can talk about it now. What match do you think starts off the show? LaBar, what do you think kicks this thing off? Overall.
I could see this just because they could have the cage lowered up and ready to go. I actually think it's the tag team match.
Huh. Interesting. That'd be interesting. Josh, what do you think?
Let me talk to you. I think it's going to be LA Knight and The Miz. I mean, for two reasons. From Cleveland, Ohio, get that Pittsburgh crowd booing The Miz immediately, which then in turn makes LA Knight's pop even louder, if that's a possibility. So, but the second choice that I probably would have as well is the tag team match, especially if there is a potential later in the night of a tease or a cash-in from Priest.
That'd be interesting. All right, let's we'll tackle that a little bit later on. Let's go into another match here. This one, I gotta tell you, not that interested. Austin Theory challenging Rey Mysterio for the United States Championship. Rey Mysterio doesn't have the greatest track record in Pittsburgh. He was booed coming out as the number 30 entrant in the 2014 Royal Rumble because it wasn't Daniel Bryan. Batista said, "I'm going to rip your head off," and turned heel on him at Bragging Rights 2009. A lot of bad things have happened to Rey Mysterio in Pittsburgh, but here he's going in as champion in a match with a couldn't be cooled off anymore Austin Theory, unfortunately, and we'll get to this as well. Grayson Waller, to me, is what Austin Theory could and should have been. But we get this match, U.S. title. LaBar, I'll pass it to you. Mysterio and Theory. I think the match will be okay, but who do you see winning, and are you even interested in this match, or are you going to be grabbing another beer?
Probably grabbing another beer. I got Ray retaining. I think he'll finally get some Pittsburgh good luck. And yeah, like you said, Austin Theory, I don't know. The guy worked John Cena at WrestleMania 6 months ago, and this is not what I would have. I don't know. The way this year has played out for him, not what I would have thought. I'm not sure where we fell off. I'm not sure. He's not champion anymore. So what does that mean? To the office per se, like what do they see or not seeing in him now? But any which way you cut it, I don't see Ray dropping this title to Austin Theory right now. It just doesn't seem like it would make much sense.
Especially considering he just won it too, right? He just won it a few weeks ago, so that doesn't really make sense to play hot potato with the U.S. title. Yeah, you're right. The Waller comparison, or the lack, I guess, of comparison between the two, Waller is kind of what we wanted Theory to be. But yeah, it's interesting because they've given him a lot of opportunities, and I don't want to say he hasn't really taken it and run with it, but he hasn't been bad. So, a great athlete in the ring. He is just a dislikable person. But there's a difference between how he's disliked and how Miz is disliked. Because I think Miz is disliked because of how good he is. Theory's disliked because people just don't care. Like the John Cena promo on him is everything that I think about Theory. Like we just don't believe it. So
exactly. I was going to say that.
Yeah, so just keeping this one short because I think this is like a 10-minute match. I think Ray wins. I don't know if you see dissension soon between him and Escobar. This match shouldn't be on the card. I'd rather see Gable and Gunther, but that's something.
Absolutely.
And I could take a half hour in that one, but no. Yeah, Mysterio wins.
Do you guys, Juice? Do you think? Do you think when Vince was on screen that Vince pushing Theory as hard as he was is like the guy? Do you think that like that subconsciously hurts Theory with the fans?
I don't know if it hurts him with the fans. I think it hurts Theory in his mind. And I would tackle what Josh said. I was going to say it. It's damning to see the Miz do so well with this type of thing. Grayson Waller succeed with this. It's being cocky and confident, but you have to believe it. You have to, as that character, you have to believe that you're that cocky. You can't just portray that. And Cena literally put it out there. He said, look, either way, it ain't going to be good for you, whether you win or lose. Like, no one's going to buy it. You have to be believable. So if Vince is saying it, sure, Vince might believe it, but he's like telling us to believe it. Austin Theory needed to be the one to make us believe it. And I don't think he's been able to do that. Crazily, maybe you might think, I kind of enjoyed his arrogant, annoying, selfie character a lot more than whatever the hell he's doing now. I like the gear change to what he has now because it looks more legitimate and badass, and the facial hair helps with that too. But I almost preferred him being like a douche and selfies and like that. That worked. It was annoying, but that's exactly what works because he believed it. I don't believe it now, and I think, like you said, 6 months ago he was wrestling John Cena at WrestleMania. Couldn't have a bigger spot. We mentioned that with Bray Wyatt having that big spot, and like Austin Theory's done nothing. I don't know if that's creative or him, but it just hasn't really cut the mustard for me.
I also wonder if him on SmackDown, shorter show, half of the show sometimes can be dominated, rightfully so, by the bloodline. I also wonder if, right. I wonder if he's kind of like getting lost in the shuffle.
Well, and the way he's booked on SmackDown is completely different than the other champions booked on Raw. Gunther's getting 30 minutes, and you're right, it's a lot of it is timing. Gunther's getting 30 minutes, and it's funny because his guys can lose every single week, and it never affects their stable. Theory doesn't have somebody to fall back on. So whenever he loses a match, to me, that's a big step backwards in his character. It's a big step backwards in his believability. I didn't believe him And I think this is a huge problem that WWE had for a very long time when they paired people up with guys like Bobby Lashley or guys like Braun Strowman. Theory's not a believable guy to beat Bobby Lashley. So what you had to do is you had to make him cheaply win, which I get, no heel ever needs to win clean. But when they're trying to make this young guy a believable champion, you have to have definitive victories. And aside from the Cena win, I guess, at WrestleMania, he really didn't have these big definitive wins. I think that really affected his character as well from the fans' perspective of saying, like, we just don't buy into this guy. Like, we don't see that he could be someone that can continuously be on top. And I think that's a big reason as well that they decided to give the championship to Mysterio, because, hey, Mysterio, for me, more interest in him being United States champion than Theory was for months.
Which is crazy because at this point in Rey's career, he doesn't need a championship.
I'm not a Rey Mysterio fan either, Like, I'm not a big Rey guy. I like him, but he's all right.
Well, to me, isn't he already in the Hall of Fame? Like, he's already like all these things. He's done so much. It's wild to me. And I will bounce this last little point here off of you, Josh, that you asked about Santos Escobar. I absolutely think he could get involved now, whether that means Rey wins and Escobar has an issue with him down the line, or Escobar potentially costs Rey this match. I don't know what would be better, because again, I don't know what Austin Theory need. Does he need a repackaging? Does he just need a better feud? A feud that's not John Cena burying him on the mic where he can't handle it? Because again, with Grayson Waller, he had a one-on-one with Cena at Money in the Bank and killed it. Absolutely killed it. One promo live in front of like the biggest audience he's ever been in front of. And he did a great job.
I don't know, Justin. What do you do? I don't know what you do with Theory at this point, to be honest with you.
I almost wonder if you take him off TV for a few, just to let it reset and almost let people forget about him for a minute, so you can try to reintroduce him. I'm not saying like a total repackaging. I'm not saying we call him. We don't need to call him. Adam something. Pick a new name that has the initials AT. But I do think or you know what? Maybe even let him. Look, if Dom and other guys, maybe let them go to do a little bit in NXT. They're doing a little more. They're doing a little more crossover than NXT. They're not making it as much. They're kind of finally doing what I always wanted, where I didn't want NXT to be this demotion. I wanted it to be just this alternative. And we're seeing more of that with Rhea there and Dom there. So maybe have them do a little thing there. It's kind of like I'm in full baseball mode with my Orioles win this year.
Farm system.
Yeah, maybe send them back down for a little AAA. let them just get the stuff and the pitches right again, and bring it back in time for Rumble. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's exactly what I was.
Or not, or if not Rumble, then after Mania when you reset everything. But I think let him go away a little bit, because I don't think there's anything that they can do right now that's going to be believable. I think they need a reset a little bit.
Definitely.
I would agree with that, and that's exactly what I was going to say. Is NXT has been such a great farm system. It's turned into such a non-demotion. I'm going to hone my craft. I'm going to be perform in front of maybe 200 people instead of 20,000 people. And like Baron Corbin did that, and Braun Breaker, who people think can just go to the main roster, he's kind of honing his own craft as being a heel now in NXT. And it's just a way to really make sure that you are absolutely where you need to be before you go to Raw or SmackDown. And for a guy like Theory, I think you're right, LaBar. I think he could go there and kind of have a renaissance and maybe piss someone off and get into a feud, and maybe people will start caring about him again. Have him go away a little bit, and boom, Royal Rumble season. You never know.
Yeah, because when he was in NXT the first time, when it was the old black and gold NXT, he was like what? He was like a hanger-on with Gargano and those guys in the way.
Yes.
Let him go back. He's a centerpiece of himself. Let him, work directly under Shawn Michaels. I think that it couldn't. Let me put it this way: it couldn't hurt him. Nothing could hurt him.
Oh no, absolutely. Especially like we all have said now, with him and Cena, you really can't get any higher than that early on in your career. So if you want to reset to maybe get back to that, I don't see that as a big issue. All right, so I would also say Rey Mysterio will retain here. Get off the schneid as it were with Pittsburgh, giving him a hard time the last decade plus. But let's get into another match. Women's World Title, RR versus RR. For the WWC, Rhea Ripley versus Raquel Rodriguez. Raquel hit Rhea with a vicious clothesline this past week. I'm really looking forward to this. I don't know how much time they'll give them, but Rhea has really, I wouldn't say squashed everybody, but very few and far between have there been challengers that have been up to par with Rhea Ripley. And I think Raquel Rodriguez is exactly the type of competitor Rhea needs to thrive, and vice versa. I think Raquel will really shine in this type of match. I'm not saying she's going to win the title here, but for someone who I think needs to elevate herself to become one of those major players, Becky Lynch and I guess Zoe Stark's doing that now as well, but Bianca, all the top level women's wrestlers, Raquel has a shot here on PLE to hang with Rhea Ripley and get close, but I think Rhea Ripley retains the title. Josh Isenberg, what do you think?
Yeah, I think I'm looking forward to the match just to see the stature of Rhea and Raquel. We've seen it a few times backstage, a few times in the ring. I'm not sure how much time they'll get. I think this could be a 8 to 10 minute just physical fight where Raquel gets a lot of quick offense in, but ultimately Rhea hits a couple of her big moves and picks up the victory. This would be a really great match if we really knew what kind of character Raquel Rodriguez was. And I think that's really the only issue that I have is I'm not sure what she is. She has kind of the Tex-Mex music and that look. I mean, a beautiful specimen coming out, being over 6 foot, just looks fantastic, but is still not there fully connecting with the crowd. And you obviously noticed that in Memphis this past week on Raw, where the crowd really didn't care, even though she was, woman handling Rhea Ripley for a quick minute. So again, 8 to 10 minutes, give me some physicality, some hard hitting action to kick things off. But Rhea retains this.
LaBar?
Yeah, I am looking forward to the match. Raquel does present a physical threat because of her stature to match up with Rhea. But like Josh said, I mean, there's a lot of things. Let me say this. I think this could be a WrestleMania match in a couple years.
Yep.
But it's everything Josh said. They still need to find some things with Raquel. Raquel's got a lot to work with. Bilingual, which I know they like to do that, that makes sense. You're a global product. I understand that. Bilingual, athletic. I like when she comes out and her pose, she shows off the back muscle. I mean, there's a lot of little things that she's got going for that's unique to her, but we still need more. I probably need more backstory. We probably need some things like that to get invested in her, because like Josh said, the Memphis crowd was just flat. Where they were supposed to be, they should have been, rallying behind her. They were not at all. If anything, they're more in awe of Rhea Ripley. And how could you not? Rhea's absolutely not dropping this. She is in a class of her own. We talked about Becky Lynch earlier, needing credible opponents for Rhea. Certainly Becky's credible, but I don't think any, and this includes Becky, there is nobody on Rhea's level right now. That's the challenge that they have to do. Rhea's doing her thing. They have some work to do in the women's division and look, we've seen Rhea and Charlotte several times already.
Right.
Like they need to figure out who can we build up that is a babyface that's a challenge to Rhea, or is that the solution, or is the eventual solution going to be Rhea's such a badass, nobody buys any babyface going after her because they would rather cheer Rhea Ripley because she is so damn dominant. It's almost like the China effect. It's almost like, she's in such awe that she could actually, you believe that she could kick some of the guys' ass that you start to cheer for. And so that's, I think, going to be the challenge that they have to navigate is, what do you do with her? Does she break off from the Judgment Day? Is she presented as a heel, but we accept the crowd cheers her, but of course they're going to boo Dom? Like, they have to figure it out. But she is in a class of her own. And Cheap Plug today, Friday, new interview that I just did with her drops. So check out my socials.
Yeah, look at LaBar getting 2 huge interviews this week. One with Juice Springsteen and one with Rhea Ripley.
One slightly bigger than the other.
Just a little bit. But Rhea, as you said, I kind of agree with the China thing. Like, she's so believable, like across the board, man, woman, whatever, that could just dominate. And she might. The real question. So people will talk about the bloodline, and my biggest thing is, it's been great, 3 years. Not how's it going to end, but what is next? Like, what is Roman Reigns going to do once there is no bloodline? What is Paul Heyman going to do? Solo, the Usos, what are they going to do after, when it's all said and done and they're dissolved, right? I'm going to look at the Judgment Day the same way. I think Damian Priest is the Money in the Bank. He's got a lot. He could be a world champion. He can easily go on his own. Finn Balor has been on his own. Dom's going to NXT, even though he's kind of tethered to Rhea. I think he can thrive, NXT, Raw, SmackDown. He's a heat magnet. Rhea is an outlier, not because she's a woman, but she's so dominant. She's arguably the most successful of the Judgment Day. And yeah, I do agree that Raquel and her could be a match for WrestleMania down the line in a couple of years. But to me, heel or face, I think the main event for night one of WrestleMania next year is Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair. I don't know if they have to necessarily create a new face to get to Rhea's level that, we said Charlotte and what have you. But I think Bianca is that face that's at that level that could absolutely have a killer match with Rhea Ripley. And I think that's going to be your night one WrestleMania main event, which, give me that. I don't know what title would be on the line. I don't know if the Rumble is going to be involved. I don't know who's going to be champion at that time. But I think those two have a collision course for that. So do you guys think that's something that could happen? Or do you think that they need because I think Bianca, what is she on SmackDown? Do you think they need someone new, someone fresh to challenge Rhea?
No, I think Bianca would be the ultimate choice and take her off television. There's been reports that she's going to be off TV for a while. So I'm fine with not seeing her until Rumble. Give her 4 months off. There was, I think, a little bit of I wouldn't say the crowd was turning on Bianca, but it was kind of like we talked about with Jane Cena. She's kind of that super Cena in the women's division. I'm fine with that. I don't think there's any way that they could cook up quickly in 6 months to be on the level of Rhea or even close to her level.
Yeah, I mean, I could see Bianca, but again, there goes to my question of come next year at WrestleMania, again, do they want to boo Rhea? Is that even so? Yeah. If you could recapture Becky from 2018. I don't know what the dynamics used to be. So, yeah, I don't know. And there's no. I'm trying to think quickly here. There's no. I mean, there's no female that's going to be that could be a free agent that I could think that would be a big enough.
Yeah, it seems like Mercedes Moné is going to be in AEW more often than not. So
right.
Outside of that, it's got to be in house. Zoe Stark.
Right. It'd have to be in house. I can't think of any name that. There's female talent and Impact and AEW and all that I like, but I don't know if any of them have enough that they'd be able to come in the next. They'd be able. None of them would have enough cachet to show up at Rumble.
Yeah,
and I think
win.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So it's just.
Well, the only person I think that could match up, we do say that, but they'd have to kind of push her a little bit further, and maybe she would win the Rumble, is Shayna Baszler. I think that could be a at least physical specimen that is at least comparable to Rhea Ripley, and putting Ronda Rousey out of the picture. I think that's at least something to push her forward, but they need to get behind her creatively for that.
I'll give you one wild card here, and I know she's they just called the audible with the tag. If Piper Niven, if they continue to move away, and it seems like they are, obviously, to make everybody forget about the thing called Dewdrop, if they could continue to make Piper Niven serious and let her, I mean, she has to be credible between now. I mean, she can't be seen losing at all. Again, from a physicality standpoint, because of her size and how hard hitting she can be. And this would play into, again, Rhea just kind of transitioning. And she doesn't really need to change her character, but she could just accept that she's being cheered. I would buy into Rhea being her, but being cheered against Piper Niven if they make Piper Niven just a killer between now and then.
Well, LaBar, if your thought process is Rhea turning face and they really want to go full fledged, why not Nia Jax coming back?
Yeah. Oh God, people love to boo Nia Jax.
They hate Nia Jax.
There's your heat magnet right there.
Oh, I think Isenberg wins this round of the booking. I think he's right.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Too bad we won't be seeing that match at Payback, unfortunately. We will be getting, like to just touch on this, even though it's not an announced match, we will be getting the Grayson Waller effect with Cody Rhodes. Now, I know it's not a match, but I have been thrilled to at least say that we'll get a Seth Rollins singing entrance, we'll get the LA Knight pop and entrance, and we get a Cody entrance. So it's not all lost here at Payback. For the Grayson Waller effect, Cody Rhodes, are they going to set up a match? Is someone going to interfere? Does anything of note happen here? LaBar, you're going to be getting a beer during an actual match, but during this segment on an announced segment for a pay-per-view, kind of interesting that they do that. What do you think happens if anything of note does?
I mean, I'd have to think that this would be the setup for who's Cody's next opponent. Obviously, we know he's done with Brock. Who that would be, that's where, again, we might have to start getting creative. Like, is it somebody from that we've previously seen to be on SmackDown's roster that comes over, or but yeah, I mean, Cody needs a new feud, and so I would think that this would be the perfect opening for that.
Yeah, and I don't know who that's going to be either. I go through the roster on Raw and SmackDown, and I'm like, it's very hard to even take a step further after a Brock Lesnar feud. So it's like you look at the roster, and he's feuded with the Judgment Day, kind of, but do we really want to see Finn and Cody? We just saw that as a Raw match. Do we see Damian and Cody? Does Cody go after Seth or Shinsuke? They have a lot of people on Raw that are, and I don't mean this as a disrespect, but they have a lot of NXT guys on Raw. They don't have big stars. They have the weekly, Ciampa, Bronson Reed, and all these guys that are just the absolute, in my mind, definition of mid-carders, where they're able to fill, 45, 50 minutes. Maybe, the only guy that I could see would be a Gunther, but Gunther is Intercontinental Champion, and you don't want Cody to defeat Gunther to stop his momentum while you're trying to continue to build Cody's momentum for a potential Undisputed Championship match. So, yeah, I don't have a guess on who it's going to be. Juice, do you?
No, no. I thought Bobby Lashley could have been one of those guys, but unfortunately, me just watching Raw every week makes me think, okay, Bobby Lashley will be the next guy for Cody. That's great. But we'll probably end up just seeing a 6-man with the Street Profits and Bobby and Cody and Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. So yeah. I really don't know what is next. Like you guys said, like Brock Lesnar with 3 matches.
Yeah,
you'd think Cody's ready for the world title. So I don't know. But I don't know if they want to do that. I still think that the finishing the story is going to be Mania 40 with Roman. So we all know what the end game might be. But we got Fastlane, Survivor Series, potentially a December show, and then we're into Rumble and Mania season. So he's got some time. You got to get him hot. I think this at least is a cool down for him. Maybe it sets up him and Grayson Waller and gives Grayson Waller a little rub. Which couldn't hurt him, especially if he loses. Like, I don't think it hurts him in the slightest.
So I'm looking at the roster, and I mean, I think AJ has been out. I think injured maybe, but I mean, I guess if
wouldn't hate that.
Him and Cross had that feud for a bit. So
yeah, I mean, right. you have an Elias who's hanging around who's from Pittsburgh. I mean, if you wanted, like if you wanted to try to like really get somebody,
Kurt Angle.
If you wanted to try to get a Cody rub, I mean, the biggest thing they could do, but I don't know if it's even realistically possible, and his situation's been well in the dark. If Cody Rhodes trying to finish in the story and he has to go through Randy Orton again, that would make this segment that would drive this segment home if Randy Orton popped up.
Yeah, I mean, that's huge. Yeah. I think that's the only guy, but we just don't know. I think honestly the only other guy that I could think of, now that I'm thinking out loud, and we know he's healthy, we know he's competing. Although, in a tag team now, is a McIntyre. A guy like McIntyre, if you give McIntyre kind of that, revengeful attitude that he had when he first came up onto Raw, teaming with Ziggler, that's a good feud for Cody, because I think that people would love to see that physicality between the two and gives Cody another obstacle, but he's deterred from really anything right now teaming with Riddle, which I get what they're trying to do, trying to recreate RK Bro, but I don't think that benefits either of those two guys.
Yeah, it's tough. It'll be interesting to see, that's for sure. I'm actually more, I'm with LaBar. I'm more interested in seeing this than maybe a Rey Mysterio Austin Theory match. As unfair as that might be to those guys, that's the position that we're in here, and we don't get a Gable versus Gunther match, so that's what we got. But we do have a match.
I'll throw one more real quick. I'll throw one more real quick. I don't know if he'd show up unannounced or if he like shows up with like a selfie shot video, like a Logan Paul situation. You want to continue to have Cody's stock rise, get him on.
Not a bad idea.
Get him on Logan Paul's pot. I don't
hate that.
Logan, am I allowed to cuss on this?
You can curse, yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I could do PG. Logan Paul talking a whole lot of crap on Cody and his legacy, and look, I've done more in my 2 years in WWE than this guy. There could be a really easy layup sound bites.
True.
You know what? That seems pretty solid. Plus, it's so simple. All you got to do is have him, FaceTime in or have a pre-taped quote unquote live reaction that you can, sync up with everything. And I think you might be onto something, because there's another guy. You need a guy that doesn't get hurt creatively if he loses to Cody, because Cody can't lose probably as you go to Mania, unless it was Brock, where you're getting 3 matches and he can get that the 2 out of the 3. I'd love a Logan Paul. That'd be a great match, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So maybe I wouldn't mind that at all. But speaking of charisma, we got 2 guys with, well, one has a lot of it. The other one, he's a veteran in the business. No, he's a lot of charisma. The Miz versus LA Knight. I love this. I don't know, I don't know what this match is really going to hold, other than hopefully, probably assumed LA Knight victory here. But I love the Miz on the mic acting like LA Knight, and I love that they've just been calling out, Miz calling out directly the Attitude Era comparisons, The Rock and Stone Cold, the things he's doing in the ring that are very similar, or the what chant is a comment, or the yeah chant is a combination of hell yeah and what. And the mannerisms are the same, and he does the similar people's elbow, and he wears a vest, and he's calling out things that are pretty obvious to the fans. And that's really been the divisive thing with LA Knight is, do you care? It's not that it's clear that he's, kind of paying an homage, but he's kind of doing it in his own way. But do you care that he's doing that? Because the point is, the fans that are kind of growing up now, a 20-year-old kid right now was born in 2003. Rock and Austin had their last big match in 2003, Austin's last match. They didn't grow up with Austin and Rock, so they don't really know that this is a derivative of that. They just think this is someone, on their own. And to me, I think that it's kind of lost that, this is just a new guy. They don't see it as a ripoff or what people have been critical of. To me, I love it. I love LA Knight. I love that he's hot. I love that he's so over with the crowd. The pops are huge, and that's all that matters. You could be derivative of anybody. If you're over, you're over. LaBar, I'm fascinated to hear what you got to say about this, because you were, a little bit older than me. Same with you, Isenberg. You guys have seen Rock and Austin grow and be what they were, and now you get a guy who's taken a lot from them, kind of carving his own niche. Everybody's been taken from everybody throughout history. There's only so much new stuff. Do you like LA Knight's character, and who do you think is going to take this match?
I do like LA Knight's character. I think if Twitter had been around in the 90s, people would have made a case that, the Heartbreak Kid, is he trying to be the next version of a Nature Boy, or The Rock with his, like you said, everybody takes something from everybody. I just think that, it's just that, it's very easy, especially because Rock and Austin still pop up. It's very easy to say, this guy's being a whatever, but no, look, the reactions don't lie. They just don't lie. And it's probably going to be arguably the biggest pop of the night. And look, The Miz came out there, great troll job, really got the people pissed off that he came out and he was not LA Knight. It was not LA Knight, it was The Miz. And I say this, look at who The Miz has previously done that troll job and done the imitation of. John Cena, The Rock. That's a hell of a compliment to LA Knight that The Miz pulled that out, given the past company of who he's done it for the heat to build to a match.
Yeah, I agree. The respect there is through the roof, and The Miz looks pretty damn close to LA Knight. I thought it was so solid that he got a better tan. Everything kind of lined up the same. The hair, the mannerisms, he got it down pat pretty well. But yeah, like you said, had Twitter been around then, definitely. When Billy Graham, he was a derivative. Ric Flair was a derivative. Dusty Rhodes, all these guys took from Billy Graham. Everybody took from everybody. It's just like stand-up, comedians. There's only so many topics you can cover in life. You can't just come up with something new immediately out of thin air and just hope it sticks. And like you said, the pops don't lie. The fans are not lying. The reactions are there. They're legit. And I think it will be the biggest pop of the night. Josh, I'll pass the buck to you. Who do you got in this match? And are you excited for LA Knight's entrance?
I'm excited for the match. I'm excited for the storyline if it continues. and I think LA Knight wins. Short and sweet. You guys said everything I wanted to say too. If something's over, it's over, no matter where they got it from. And he's gotten to a point where 1 year ago he was getting okay reactions. Even a little further back, he was a completely different character. That was just an absolute head scratcher. But he's over, and all you need to hear is cities like Memphis, Tennessee, cities like in Ohio, Akron, or Buffalo, New York, not these massive wrestling towns like a Philadelphia or a Pittsburgh or a New York. He's getting those reactions in these smaller markets just as loud, if not louder, than what we would deem as mainstream cities for pro wrestling and WWE. So yeah, Miz has done a great job. I just agree with everything both of you said.
Yeah, and it's just funny that, Austin Theory, we talked about how, he's had such a fall from grace, yet, LA Knight is from another fan's perspective, he's just ripping off these other guys, but he's getting the best organic reactions. Austin Theory would kill to have something like that, as a reaction. So you take what you can get with whatever character you have. If you believe it, I think that's a huge benefit to you in that regard. So I think it's a clean sweep. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I don't know when the next old school Raw and the next throwback show is gonna be, but the next time they can get Austin there. If you have Austin and LA Knight doing a what back and forth, you got something there that'll go down.
That might put him really in a stratosphere there, if they can pull that off. But yeah, I think LA Knight's is a clean sweep. LA Knight's gonna probably take this one. Really looking forward to that entrance, as we all stated before. 2 more matches, pretty important matches. They have titles on the line. Let's go for the tag titles. Another Judgment Day shot for some titles here, although Damian Priest has kind of a title shot already locked in. But now he gets the shot at the undisputed WWE Tag Team titles with Finn Balor taking on KO, Sami Zayn in the Steel City Street Fight. We're all from Pittsburgh, at least, or in Pittsburgh, at least at the moment. So we're familiar with the heritage and the culture of all that. I even interviewed Kevin Owens one time in Pittsburgh. So I asked both of you, will a pierogi be used in this match?
I don't know about a pierogi, but it's going to be interesting to see if they go in the concession stands. And I don't know if they have a Permanis in PPG Paints or not, but that might be a nice little homage to the city of Pittsburgh. But hey, I think this is going to be fun. I think, they make this a street fight because you want to see chaos in a match, especially with a card that on paper, doesn't look like a heavy hitting main event card, no bloodline story, no Roman Reigns or anything like that from the SmackDown perspective. No, from what we know as of this recording, no Charlotte or obviously no Bianca, Io Sky, that women's championship match there. So a lot of things kind of missing from it. So why not make this a street fight? I'm going to go Judgment Day winning. And I'm going to go thanks to JD McDonough because I think there's more there right now. And I don't think it hurts for Sammy and Kevin to become chasers again. And I think it keeps them fresh as a tag team if they try to get back at the Judgment Day, even though, and I'll make this very short and sweet again, even though we've seen them fight time and time and time again on Raw, but the Judgment Day has never really gotten their comeuppance from Kevin and Sammy. It always seems like they're on the losing end of things.
Wow. Yeah. So new champions on your end. LaBar, what do you think?
That's a bold pick, Cotton. We'll see if it works
also,
out.
I don't want to, hide the fact that, yes, I did interview Kevin Owens, but the following year, LaBar, you got to interview Kevin Owens, and I happened to be the guy holding the camera. I was there.
That's true.
And he remembered me. So
I'm still blocked on Twitter from him. So 9 years later.
That was a fun little bit at WrestleMania 32, my first Mania. I remember. Didn't you have that shirt?
I still have it, mind you.
Wow. All right, LaBar, what do you think? New champs, JD McDonough interference? I guess there's no interference. It's a street fight. What the hell happens here?
I think it opens the show, like I said. I don't think that the titles change hands. I think that, Rhea gave that little ultimatum to them of, Judgment Day needs title. She's got her title. Dom's got his title. So I think the fact that if they come up short and don't win the tag titles, now you're like, oh crap! Like now this might boil over, and then I know we'll get to in a minute. I don't know if I'm not going to say definitively that Priest is going to cash in successfully, but I think Priest and his briefcase makes an appearance later during Seth's match, and I think the dynamic of the possibility of, okay, Priest could cash in, get a title. Now that leaves Finn as the only one that doesn't have a title in Judgment Day. I think there's just a lot to play, a lot of dynamic, and then of course throw the JD McDonough factor in. So that's kind of how I see this going down. Like I said, I think this will be a great opener. Start out with the cheap pop of the local town gimmick street fight. Happy to be there. I'm sure it'll be fun. I am going to be sad not to be getting to hear Corey Graves' commentary live to count how many crazy Pittsburgh references he makes.
Yep.
Yeah, and I kind of agree with that take of the briefcase, and you did say there's quite a few avenues they could travel in regards to the Rhea ultimatum. I would almost wager that KO and Sammy would win here. I think the move, quite honestly, because I think there's some. It's similar to Rhea Ripley, where I think Damian Priest could be a huge babyface. And I don't know necessarily if he cashes in that's what happens, but I could see a moment where if they wanted to add JD McDonough into the Judgment Day and ostracize someone, if they ostracize Priest and then Priest goes on and he ends up cashing in at the end of the night, being on his own, being this, standalone guy, I don't know what would really be best, because that kind of leaves Finn Balor back to still being in Judgment Day, no title, and now he has to deal with a new guy to be cohesive with.
I'd be weary of that, though, trying to turn Priest face sooner rather than later, because why is he a heel now? Because his face gimmick as U.S. champion didn't really pan out the way they expected. So he's over more now as a heel than he is as a face, because he was not over as a face. And I like Priest a lot. But his gimmick, being the Archer of Infamy and, the dancing in the middle of the ring and the bow and arrow was just a little too much, I think, for fans to really like him as a face. So whenever he obviously debuted in the Judgment Day with Edge, it was a nice kind of, oh, well, we haven't seen him in a few months. He looks different. So I'd be scared about that. But I agree, it could happen down the road. I just don't see him being as successful as a face champion than as a heel champion. And if he cashes it in on either Seth or Nakamura, even though Nakamura has been great as a heel, he's more liked than a lot of the faces still, even though he's trying to be a heel.
Well, plus he's got the briefcase, and it's always better to have that briefcase as a heel, right? It's a license to steal. And this will basically segue us into the title match between Seth and Shinsuke. But I also say that I think it's a real possibility that Priest and the briefcase make themselves at least a threat and tease that they're going to have it happen. Because look at it this way: ever since Triple H took over the day-to-day, he's always tried, and even with most Monday Night Raws and SmackDowns, he's tried to make sure the ending, there's something at the ending.
Yeah.
Right. So, this card, while it's not as heavy hitting, while we don't have Bloodline, we don't have Cody in a match, while we don't have, the Gunther Gable match, if you still look at it, you got, it's the titles. They made the titles mean something. You got the World Heavyweight title, the Women's World title, U.S. Tag Team. Then you got a cage grudge match, and then you have what's probably going to be the most over-pop singles match between Knight and Miz. So, it's a compact card that everything matters. All these titles do matter. They've all got emphasis put back on them. So I look at it, I'm like, okay, what's going to end the night? I would have to think Rollins and Nakamura, right? I don't see, Ripley, as we've always said, it's I don't see them ending on the cage match with Becky and Trish. I would be stunned if they did. So I just really think that you could end on Seth Rollins and Nakamura, but it's like, okay, and I think Seth probably wins. So Seth wins, kind of predictable, I think, to most fans, even though they've done a good job with Shin. But it would seem just kind of like a flat ending. So that's when I go, man, what an ending if Priest comes in and things get crazy with him with it trying to cash in, or maybe successfully cash it in.
And they need something. You're Justin. I'm sorry, just they do
No, you're
need
good.
something for us to get our attention to continue to care, what happens on Monday, because like you said, they don't have the heavy hitters that can carry us through, a 3-hour pay-per-view. And I'm not against the 6 matches with the segment in between with Cody and Waller. It feels like an NXT takeover type show, right? Like the matches feel like they matter a little bit more, even though you're not getting these intricate storylines that have been going on for 6, 7, 8 months.
Yeah, you made a great point, LaBar, and I've been singing the praises of the Triple H regime ever since Clash of the Castle, and to be quite honest, this is the exact 1 year. It'll be almost, I think the date was right around the first week of September, where they did the Clash of the Castle, and ever since that first PLE under the Triple H regime, you're right, every ending, and the majority have been with the Bloodline, have had some sort of really fun, chaotic, or fascinating angle to end, to get us ready for the next show. They got Fastlane next in Indianapolis in October. I don't know if that's going to be maybe more SmackDown heavy. Will Roman or any of those guys be involved? But to get there, you need something hot to end it. So let's just segue. Seth Rollins versus Shinsuke Nakamura, world title on the line. They've set this thing up pretty well, I thought. I love the Nakamura promo. We've been saying it for years. I think even in the Chair Shot reality days, where if you have someone that's not that English is not their first language, right? Is it really that bad to have some sort of pre-taped promo or promo package where subtitles are on the screen and they are talking and it gets the point across in a serious way? They did that, I think, briefly with Asuka, and they're doing it with Nakamura. And damn it, the promos that they've cut with Nakamura about Seth Rollins is back, carrying the company, not being able to get out of bed, hanging out with his kids and his wife, and really getting under Seth's skin, I think has been fantastic. It's been more positive creatively for Shinsuke Nakamura than he might have ever had in his career in WWE to this point. I think he's as interesting, character-wise at least, now than really ever. And that's saying a lot, considering LaBar and I were watching him against Sami Zayn in his debut match, and there was no character to be needed. It was just this guy has an aura about him. But now you get him in, 7 years in. I'm thrilled to see what happens in this match. I'm not sure if Priest cashes in, but I do think we see a tease of it. But if Rollins were to win, I think Nakamura attacks him, and I think we could see Priest cash in.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I do think there is some merit about Seth Rollins' health. I don't know if it's necessarily, he has to take some time off. I think it's, maybe he does need some back maintenance and things like that to kind of clean himself up. But I do think there's a real good potential that Rollins does not leave Pittsburgh as champion. And you're right. I mean, and Justin's talked about this too. You're right about, what they've done with Nakamura over the past month has been the best that they've ever done with him. And Nakamura is a detriment of a language barrier in weekly episodic television, because he did not have that issue in NXT, because if you can remember years and years ago, they didn't spotlight him every single week on NXT. Even as NXT champion, he'd be, in a match, they do a video package, and he might not be on there for a week or two, because that's, at that time it was 1 hour. But now you have 3 hours, and if he's going to be in a main event, you're going to have to spotlight him every week. So I like what they've done with him, and really capping this off. I don't think Nakamura will win. Will I be shocked? No. But I think if I had to rate it on who I think leaves Pittsburgh, I think this could be a good opportunity for Priest. And then you can also go, Seth is my very close second, and then Nakamura third place.
Yeah, Nakamura, with the video packages, with the subtitles translating, is that ever going to be something that's going to get him into the main event of WrestleMania? I don't know. But for what they're trying to do right now, is trying to have, again, a credible heel opponent for Seth at this time of the year. These last 2 weeks have been tremendous, with what he's saying, making it personal, then showing him doing the martial arts this past week. For years on the main roster under Vince, and this is not isolated to Shinsuke. Vince had this track record, especially with Japanese stars. It didn't take long for them to be goofy or to be, weird, or they're spitting kabuki mist, or they're Akira Tozawa goof. It just, and this guy doesn't. You in the last 2 weeks, they've done so much more just to make him seem credible and interesting. To where, again, I don't really give him an iota of chance of winning this. Again, just because even if Rollins does need to take some time off or what have you, I just think you have the Priest and all the Judgment Day dynamics. That's just, you can't ignore that. But I'm still happy to see Nakamura get this, and I hope that if nothing else, whatever Nakamura goes on to do moving forward, it's got the same kind of care and attention to it. Like, again, I'll just fantasy book here. If Nakamura is going to remain on Mondays, and especially if a Seth Rollins was to not be champion, or if you're looking for, babyface boost, I could see Shinsuke Nakamura present this, put him across from an LA Knight. And I think there's different dynamics to be had here, that Shinsuke looks as credible as he ever has, and that you could run with that. He could be a heel that you can run with, and I don't know. I don't. He's not going to win the championship, but I'm really pleased how they've put the effort towards the last few weeks of showcasing him.
I 1,000% agree. And as you said with the LA Knight, I mean, let's just say for the sake of fantasy booking that Rollins, legitimately does need to take a little bit of time off, whether it's to, clean it up, whatever his injury is, just to rest. What is it? It'll be September. Give him some time off. He can come back at the Rumble and no one would even know. You have a beatdown angle, anything like that, I think is very possible. And whether it's Nakamura or if it were Priest as the heel champion, you have LA Knight, who, he might not win, but he could challenge. Why would this title has been so nice to have, with the Bloodline and Roman holding one title for over 3 years now. We've just passed that 3-year mark. Well on his way to passing Bruno Sammartino from Pittsburgh, by the way. I think that it's so nice in a change of pace to have a title that anybody could have a shot at. And we've only had Seth as this champion thus far, which I think he's done a great job. He's defended it out of NXT. He's defended it everywhere against anybody, really. But once that title changes hands, it opens up so many avenues. Like, LA Knight doesn't even have to win the title, but imagine next month it's Nakamura or Priest versus LA Knight for the world title. You're going to get a huge pop for LA Knight and a huge world title match. It's going to be so much more elevated just because of who's in it, let alone the title and the importance of it. And if you believe that LA Knight could even win, just stuff like that is opened up once Seth doesn't have the title. And like I said, he could go away for a bit and come back to the Rumble, and people would be just thrilled to see him again.
Yeah, or you can even have Nakamura. I mean, I know we can book everything and throw all these suggestions out there. We're not sure.
That's what we do here.
Well, I mean, what if he puts up a strong fight against Rollins and maybe the cash in happens and, maybe he targets Cody? I mean, my biggest thing, I think, out of just breaking down this entire card in the next 4 months for me is what happens with Cody. And there needs to be not more than one person for him to go through. And I would pick Orton first, just having a long feud with him if available. If not, Logan Paul was a great suggestion by LaBar. Yeah. But you got to have, October, November, December, January. Like, there's got to be multiple opponents for Cody. They had Dom against Cody at Money in the Bank, and people won't remember it, but it was fine because he was the most hated person. So a lot of options to see what they do, and I think that's a good thing right now, though. They have a lot of options, a lot of avenues to go with different characters and different people because they are getting more time to build these younger stars up on Monday Night Raw specifically. But you're right. I mean, there's just a lot of options for them in many, many ways and who to go to.
With all that being, go ahead, LaBar. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say. I mean, obviously, Survivor Series you can mask because of Survivor Series type matches. Oh, yeah. But they do still have, just before Survivor Series, they're going to be back in Saudi Arabia, so they usually treat that a little bit heavier with they try to make that card sexy. So you got to so it's like, who does Cody work there?
That could be a Logan Paul.
That could be a Logan Paul. Again, looking ahead, like if you said Fastlane in Indianapolis, I mean, I don't know what the situation is, but if you could have Pat McAfee work a match in Indianapolis, Jesus, and obviously Pat would not work against Cody, but maybe Pat would do a tag match where it's him and Cody versus Logan Paul, and then pick a full-time member of the roster.
That's all you need, and he could do College Game. He could do his commitments and still be involved. I think he would take a show in Indianapolis. Yeah, immediately if the opportunity presented itself, even for a one-off for a little bit, as he's not doing commentary.
Tag match where he doesn't have to do a tag match where it's him and Cody. Cody's one of the hottest faces against a Logan Paul, and then again pick up pick a full-time heel. Like that alone will sell the Indianapolis arena.
Yeah. Yep.
Absolutely. All right. So before we head out, I just want to say, Isenberg, I'll ask you, who wins the match, Rollins and Nakamura, and then who, at the end of the night, is the champion?
Rollins wins. Priest cashes in.
But does he win? Does he win the title? He cashes in, but does he win?
Yes.
LaBar?
I hate to be agreeable, but I kind of see the same thing. I think Rollins defends, and then I think retains, and then I think Priest ends the night standing tall.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but 3 for 3. I think Seth Rollins wins in a damn good match. Nakamura keeps it close, and dare I say, maybe beats down Rollins after the fact. And Damian Priest cashes that thing in, and we get a new champion in an exciting moment. Again, Money in the Bank being cashed in Pittsburgh, which would be fascinating. This has been great. I can't wait to see what happens with Payback. I'm looking forward to hanging out and seeing you guys as well. It's been fantastic having you guys on this show. Before we leave, I want to do some rapid fire. I have probably 10 or so questions. I am going to rattle them off, and as quickly as you can say them, you can step on each other, whichever. I want to hear your first answer and response to whatever I'm asking.
All right. So I'm going to have LaBar go first each time just so we don't overstep each other.
No, that's not fun. Not fun.
That's what this whole show is. It's not fun. All right, let's go.
All right.
So rapid fire. You guys ready?
Yes.
All right. Hogan or Flair?
Hogan.
Damn it. Favorite era of The Undertaker?
Ooh.
I know LaBar's.
94 to 96.
I'll say Mania 23 to 29.
Huh, okay. I figured LaBar would have been the American Badass purely for the Kid Rock treatment, but 94 to 97 is not. Or not? Would you say 94 to 97 or 96?
94 to 96 because I think of the memorable stuff he did with like Mankind in 96, and I
yeah.
But then like I also love him being like the devil, even though he hated that stuff in like 99.
The Ministry. Well, you can't have it all. You already said 94 to 97.
94 to 96. Such fond kid memories as a child. Buried alive. The only kid that's going into middle school excited about buried alive match.
Can you believe this? I saw a guy buried alive last night.
Actually, hell, I was in elementary school. What was I talking about? Yeah, elementary school.
All right. Would you guys want Rock Cena 3?
No.
No, there's better uses of both of them.
Saturday or Sunday for a PLE?
Saturday,
yeah.
That's right. Favorite WrestleMania?
17.
17 is a fan watching from home, 30 live.
Favorite face of Foley?
Mankind.
Dude, love.
Favorite match of the first 9 WrestleManias, but not a Hogan match?
Piper versus Brett, Mania 8.
You said not a Hogan match?
That's correct.
Oh my gosh. I hate to say, Steamboat and Savage, but it just was such a great technical match. Oh man, 5 was the Mega Power. Yeah, I'm gonna go with that one. We'll go with that one for the sake of time here.
Okay. Yeah, I might be here long. It might be Payback by the time you come up with that thing. Favorite tag team of all time?
Damn, that's a good question. Usos for me, to be honest with you.
Wow.
I've never been more invested in a tag team from a main event storyline perspective ever.
I love the Usos, but I'm gonna say the New Age Outlaws. The energy and excitement you got every time you heard that. Dun, 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 dun. It's, I mean, come on.
Hey, Royal Rumble 2014.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
right. Brett or Sean?
Sean.
Josh, you said Sean. You said at the same time.
Sean. Yeah, Sean as well.
Okay. And then last, but certainly not least, what is your favorite wrestling podcast?
Does Ghoulish have a podcast?
Well, since my check did not come in yet, I'm gonna go with. I like to spar with LaBar, I know it's not a podcast, but the juice box, obviously. Come on. and every flavor of juice: orange, apple, pineapple, peach, pear, every kind of juice.
LaBar?
How can I not say the juice box?
Thank you for being so nice. There's so many podcasts you guys could have selected, including the thousands and thousands that Conrad Thompson is hosting. And even Wrestling Reality with Justin LaBar at one day was my favorite podcast. But since that podcast is no longer with us, neither is Chair Shot Reality. The Juice Box must live on. So thank you guys so much for being a part of this. I cannot be more thrilled to have both of you on. Josh is normally here for the predictions. I normally run the show solo. But I figured for the pay-per-view and PLE, Payback in Pittsburgh, everything's with a P. I felt that LaBar and Isenberg should be here. A little reunion. I'm sure Ghoulish will have an issue with that, but we'll get him on. I mean, we'll do a 4-person podcast next time. Coming soon, potentially, eventually, maybe. Share Shot reunion. We'll see.
So you're gonna be popular with the people. You managed to get a little CSR reunion here and here, so you're gonna be popular with the people. Once,
and drinks on you, by the way, this Saturday, Juice. I'm just saying.
Hey, absolutely. Hey, put it on my tab.
Put it on my tab.
So, appreciate you guys. Eisenberg, LaBar, any last words before we head out?
No, man, appreciate you having us on. It was always a good time to reconnect with you fellas.
Yeah, it's no matter how long we go without doing it, it's just like riding a bike. The three of us can get back on a mic and just go at it. It's fun.
It's easy.
It is. We're here for an hour and a half, even though the first 20 minutes was not recorded, and that was on it was a user error snafu. But that's why I'm here and you guys are there because of that. So appreciate it once again. This has been the Juice Box. Justin LaBar at Justin LaBar on Twitter, at Josh Eisenberg 4 on Instagram, at Juicy Steen on Instagram, at Josh Eisenberg 4 on Twitter, and Juicy Steen on Twitter. This has been the Juice Box. Payback's gonna be dope. PLE in Pittsburgh, always a fun time. Should be a great crowd. Maybe we'll see a cash in. But this has been the PLE prediction for Payback in Pittsburgh on this episode of The Juice Box.
That was The Juice Box with Juice Springsteen. Make sure to subscribe to The Juice Box wherever you listen to podcasts.